What would you do if a moment of casual shopping turned into a life-changing confrontation? When a decorated black female military officer faces blatant racism and abuse of power, the supermarket transforms into a battlefield for justice. A calm weekend afternoon takes a shocking turn when Olivia Harper, a high-ranking military officer, encounters a belligerent and arrogant police officer. Insulted and humiliated simply for her skin color, Olivia refuses to back down. But the stakes rise dramatically when the officer pulls out a gun in the middle of the store, leaving everyone stunned. The tension escalates until a phone call changes everything, bringing someone powerful enough to tip the scales of justice. What happens next will leave you speechless. Watch closely. You won't want to miss a second of this gripping story of courage, accountability, and an unforgettable showdown. Before we dive deeper into this gripping story, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, Epic Story Moments, yet, now is the perfect time. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and be the first to hear our incredible new stories. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support more heartwarming tales like this. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. On a warm and sunny weekend afternoon, Olivia Harper, a high-ranking military officer who had just returned home after completing an exhausting and dangerous overseas tour of duty, decided to take a much-needed break from her responsibilities. After weeks of intense operations and leading soldiers in the most challenging circumstances, she yearned for some normalcy and peace. Dressed in a simple white shirt, blue jeans, and a pair of sneakers, she didn't look like someone with a chest full of medals or a commanding presence on the battlefield. Instead, she appeared as any ordinary woman running errands. Olivia deliberately avoided wearing her military uniform or anything that might reveal her position. She wanted to blend in, to feel like a civilian, even if just for a short time. With a small shopping list in hand, Olivia walked into a modest neighborhood supermarket. The store wasn't particularly busy, but it had its share of customers browsing through the aisles. Grabbing a shopping cart, she strolled leisurely through the store, her mind relaxing with each step. For Olivia, choosing everyday necessities wasn't just a chore. It was a rare opportunity to clear her head and ground herself in the simplicity of life. As she turned into one of the aisles, her tranquil moment was interrupted by an unsettling sight. At the far end of the aisle, a man in a police uniform was browsing the shelves. His uniform bore the nameplate Brad Taylor, and his demeanor was anything but professional. Brad, a tall and muscular officer with a stern expression and a cocky attitude, seemed to view himself as the king of the store. While picking up some items, Brad carelessly dropped a pack of instant noodles and a bottle of soda onto the floor. The items rolled to the middle of the aisle, blocking the way for other shoppers. To Olivia's dismay, Brad didn't seem to care. He glanced briefly at the mess, shrugged, and continued shopping without any intention of cleaning up. For Olivia, this casual act of neglect was infuriating. As someone who had dedicated her life to serving her country with discipline and integrity, such irresponsible behavior went against everything she stood for. She couldn't ignore it. Stepping closer, she spoke in a calm yet firm voice. "Excuse me, officer. You dropped something back there. Perhaps you should pick it up. It's blocking the way for others." Brad turned to look at her, his cold eyes narrowing as he scanned her from head to toe. His expression was one of disdain, as though he found Olivia's presence unworthy of his attention. With a smirk, he replied, "Who do you think you are to tell me what to do? I don't have time for trivial nonsense like this." Olivia remained composed, though she could feel a spark of irritation rising within her. She wasn't one to back down from what was right. "With all due respect, officer," she continued, "as a member of law enforcement, you have a duty to set an example. Picking up what you dropped isn't just polite. It's about respecting others around you." Instead of acknowledging her point, Brad's attitude turned hostile. He took a step closer, towering over her. His voice was dripping with condescension as he said, "You don't get to tell me how to live my life. Who are you anyway? Some nobody who thinks she's smarter than everyone else." The exchange began to draw attention from other customers, who paused their shopping to watch the tense confrontation. Olivia could feel the weight of their stares, but she refused to let the officer's remarks get under her skin. "I'm someone who believes in accountability," she replied, her tone steady. "And if you continue to behave like this, it won't reflect well on you." Brad laughed, a loud and mocking sound that echoed through the aisle. "Accountability? What are you going to do? Call the store manager? File a complaint? Please, women like you should stick to their own business and not lecture men like me." The sexist undertone of his words caused a ripple of discomfort among the onlookers. Some quietly pulled out their phones to record the incident, sensing that it was escalating into something serious. Olivia's patience was wearing thin, but her military training had taught her how to remain calm under pressure. "Officer, this isn't about power or gender," she said firmly. "This is about doing the right thing. But if you're determined to show such disrespect, you'll leave me no choice but to escalate this matter." Brad's arrogance only grew. "Escalate it? To who? Let me tell you something. I am the law around here. If anyone's escalating anything, it'll be me." The tension in the aisle reached a boiling point. Customers whispered among themselves, their voices filled with a mix of concern and curiosity. Olivia, however, stood her ground, refusing to let Brad's intimidation tactics work. As if to prove his dominance, Brad suddenly pulled his service weapon from its holster and pointed it at Olivia. The act sent shockwaves through the crowd. Several people screamed and backed away, while others froze in fear. Despite the danger, Olivia didn't flinch. She had faced gunfire on the battlefield and had been in life-or-death situations far more terrifying than this. Her voice remained steady as she said, "You've just made a very big mistake." Without breaking eye contact with Brad, Olivia calmly reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She dialed a number and spoke with absolute authority. "Mayor Carter, this is Colonel Olivia Harper. I need you to come to the supermarket immediately. There's a situation that requires your attention." Brad's confidence began to falter. He lowered the gun slightly, confusion and disbelief crossing his face. "Mayor? You're joking, right?" he sneered, though his voice lacked its earlier bravado. Olivia didn't answer. She ended the call and stood tall, her gaze never leaving Brad. The crowd buzzed with speculation, many now realizing that this wasn't an ordinary confrontation. Minutes later, sirens wailed outside the store. Police vehicles pulled up and out stepped Mayor Jonathan Carter, accompanied by several senior officers. The mayor's expression was a mixture of anger and urgency as he marched into the store. "Colonel Harper," he said, addressing Olivia with respect, "are you all right?" "I'm fine, but this officer's actions need immediate attention," Olivia replied, recounting the events in detail. The mayor turned to Brad, who was now visibly trembling. "Officer Taylor," the mayor said coldly, "you've disgraced the city and the uniform you wear. You're relieved of duty, effective immediately." The air inside the supermarket was heavy with tension, like the calm before a storm. People whispered among themselves, their gazes shifting nervously between Olivia Harper, who stood steady and resolute, and Officer Brad Taylor, whose hand gripped his gun tightly. It was a moment that could tip into chaos at any second. Despite the apparent threat, Olivia remained calm. Her years of military training had prepared her for moments far more dangerous than this. Her piercing gaze was locked onto Brad, not out of fear, but with the confidence of someone who knew she was on the right side of justice. For Brad, however, the anxiety was beginning to creep in. At first, he had treated Olivia's confrontation as just another annoyance, something he could squash with his usual arrogance and abuse of power. But now, with the crowd watching and cameras rolling, an unfamiliar sense of unease began to claw at his confidence. His mind wrestled with the possibility that this time, things might spiral out of his control. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the honk of a car horn outside the supermarket. Heads turned instinctively toward the glass doors at the front of the store. A sleek black luxury car had pulled into the parking lot, its polished surface gleaming under the afternoon sun. On the car's side was the unmistakable insignia of the mayor's office. The car door opened, and out stepped Mayor Robert Clark, a tall, commanding figure known throughout the city for his dedication to justice and his respect for those who serve the nation. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, his presence exuded authority. As he strode toward the supermarket, the weight of the moment grew heavier. Inside, Olivia straightened her posture, her military instincts kicking in as she prepared to face the mayor. Her eyes briefly met his as he entered, and in that fleeting exchange, an unspoken understanding passed between them. This wasn't just another bureaucratic visit. Justice was about to unfold. Brad's reaction was starkly different. At first, his face registered surprise, his eyes widening slightly. But that quickly turned to confusion and unease. Lowering the gun slightly, he muttered, "Mayor Clark? What are you doing here?" His voice, once brimming with overconfidence, now wavered with uncertainty. The mayor didn't answer immediately. He continued walking, his gaze briefly sweeping the scene before him. The distressed customers, the terrified faces, and Olivia's steady, unwavering stance. Stopping in front of her, he nodded respectfully. His voice, calm yet firm, broke the tense silence. "Colonel Harper, are you okay?" A collective gasp rippled through the supermarket. The murmurs began almost immediately as the crowd tried to process what they had just heard. Colonel Harper? The revelation that this unassuming woman in civilian clothes was a high-ranking military officer stunned everyone. Olivia nodded, her voice even and composed. "I'm fine, Mayor, but I can't say the same about the situation here." The mayor's expression hardened as he turned to face Brad. His sharp eyes took in the scene. The gun in Brad's hand, the visible sweat on his forehead, and the lingering traces of defiance in his stance. "Brad Taylor," the mayor began, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "I just received a call from Colonel Olivia Harper, a woman I deeply respect. She informed me that you abused your authority, insulted her, and even went so far as to threaten her with a weapon. I want to hear your explanation. Right now." Brad's face turned a shade paler. The sweat on his forehead began to drip as he stammered. Sir, this is just a misunderstanding. This woman was causing trouble and interfering with me. I only acted to maintain order." The mayor's piercing gaze didn't waver. He raised a hand, gesturing toward the crowd. "You there," he called, pointing to a young woman holding her phone. "I noticed you were recording this. May I see the video?" The woman, trembling slightly, stepped forward and handed her phone to the mayor. The entire supermarket seemed to hold its collective breath as the mayor watched the footage. Every word, every insult, and every threatening action by Brad was captured in painful clarity. As the video ended, Mayor Clark's expression turned grim. He handed the phone back to the woman and fixed Brad with a glare that could have frozen fire. "Do you think you can use your position as a police officer to threaten an innocent citizen?" the mayor asked, his voice low but laced with fury. "No matter who that person is, your actions were a disgrace. You not only abused your power, but you insulted a decorated Army colonel who has dedicated her life to protecting this country. Do you have any idea how serious this is?" Brad opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His head dropped, his shoulders slumped, and his defiance melted into a pitiful attempt to mutter excuses. I didn't mean..." The mayor cut him off with a sharp gesture. Turning to the group of police officers who had arrived behind him, he gave a single, commanding order: disarm him and take him into custody. Effective immediately, Brad Taylor is suspended. A full investigation will follow. 2 officers stepped forward and removed the gun from Brad's hand. He struggled briefly, his voice rising in desperation. "No, this isn't right. I'm a police officer. You can't do this to me." But his protest fell on deaf ears. The officers led him out of the supermarket as the crowd erupted into applause. Relief and satisfaction were visible on their faces as they watched Brad being escorted away. his once cocky demeanor replaced by utter humiliation. The mayor turned back to Olivia, his expression softening. "Colonel Harper," he said, his tone filled with sincerity, "I deeply apologize on behalf of the city for the actions of this officer. This is a great shame for our police force." Olivia nodded, her voice steady yet powerful. "Thank you, Mayor. But this isn't just about me. No one should ever have to face this kind of abuse. We need people in positions of authority who serve with fairness and integrity, not those who abuse their power." The mayor nodded in agreement, promising to oversee the reforms personally. As Olivia left the supermarket, the crowd parted to let her through. Many applauded, while a few came forward to thank her for standing up for what was right. Others apologized for not intervening earlier. Olivia smiled graciously, knowing that today's lesson wasn't just for Brad. It was for everyone who had witnessed the events unfold. The story quickly went viral, with the video garnering millions of views online. The public expressed unanimous condemnation of Brad's behavior, while showering Olivia with admiration and respect. Days later, Brad Taylor was officially dismissed from the police force, and the city launched a wide-ranging investigation to reform the department's culture and accountability practices. As for Olivia Harper, she returned to her work with quiet determination, unfazed by the sudden fame. For her, the fight for justice wasn't about recognition. It was about doing the right thing, no matter how difficult or dangerous the path. The story of Olivia Harper serves as a powerful reminder that standing up for justice can inspire change, no matter how challenging the circumstances. Her courage and determination not only held an abusive officer accountable, but also sparked a broader conversation about fairness, integrity, and the need for systemic reform. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family to spread the message of justice and accountability. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel so you never miss more meaningful and impactful stories like this one. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you in the next story.